I mean, liberty's Palladium. What the hell? We all love the Second Amendment, and sometimes we feel like we're up against the wall, our backs are up against the wall, and I think it's really interesting to look at history and see what our forefathers thought about the Second Amendment, and that's where this liberty's Palladium comes in. I had to look up what Palladium meant. I've talked about this in a previous video, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, but I didn't dig deep down on it, and I really wish I had. A palladium is a defense, and it's based off this idea from back in ancient Greece. It's kind of an interesting story. Of course, it's crazy Greek, polytheistic paganism, but Athena was raised up with a daughter of Triton named Pallas, and Zeus tricked her into killing Pallas. And so she made a statue, and then they put the statue in Troy. And as long as the statue of Pallas was in Troy, Troy couldn't fall. And allegedly, Ulysses or Odysseus snuck into Troy and stole the statue with another guy called Diomedes. And that's why the Greeks were able to destroy Troy. And so they take the Pallas, the statue of Pallas. Some say they took it to Sparta, some say Athens. Eventually it ends up in Rome, allegedly. And as long as the statue of Pallas is up, the city can't fall. And so from this we get this word Palladium, and it's a defense. As long as this defense is in place, this bulwark is in place, what it's defending can't fall. And this idea of a Palladium, or of liberty's Palladium, the defense of liberty, by which liberty can't fall as long as that defense is in place, to our forefathers was the Second Amendment. There's these two really fascinating early judges. One's a Supreme Court judge called Joseph Story, and the other is a U.S. District Court judge from Virginia named St. George Tucker. St. George Tucker, they're both fascinating men. St. George Tucker he was a captain in the militia. He fought in the Battle of Guilford Courthouse in North Carolina. Is it Guilford Courthouse or Guilford County Courthouse? I can't remember which. I've been there. I've seen the courthouse. And he was wounded in the leg there fighting in the militia in the Revolution. He comes back from his injury, and now he's a lieutenant colonel at the siege of Yorktown, the battle that ends the Revolution. And this man served in that ultimate, that last battle of the Revolution. Gets wounded again by a cannonball. James Madison, the father of the Constitution, appoints him to be a Supreme Court judge in Virginia. The other guy, Joseph Story, is too young for the Revolution. He gets appointed also by James Madison to be the youngest Supreme Court justice ever. He starts serving in 1812. He was appointed in 1811. And both these guys, excuse me, I got my redneck notes here, my redneck PowerPoint. Joseph Story's father was a member of the Sons of Liberty in Boston, and he was at the Boston Tea Party, who we're going to do a video on this soon about the Boston Tea Party and the drunken working men who trashed private property rights. So Story writes a book called The Commentaries of the Constitution of the U.S., considered a cornerstone of early American jurisprudence. He dominated the field. I'm quoting other people here. So this man sort of, they're saying he was at least as influential as John Marshall, if you know who John Marshall is, who was the first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Everyone kind of gives him credit for consolidating a lot of things in our government. They say Story was at least as damn it, what's the word? As important as Marshall. And he writes there's three commentaries on the Constitution of the United States. And these things are quoted all the way up through the 19th century. Here's what he says about the Second Amendment. This is what this guy says. The importance of this article, the Second Amendment, will scarcely be doubted by persons who have duly reflected on the subject. Remember, this is a man appointed by James Madison, who was one of the most influential judges in the first 100 years of the Republic. The militia is the natural defense of a free country against foreign invasion, domestic insurrections, and domestic usurpations of power by rulers. And then I cut a little something out because this is a long quote, but I thought that first part was important. The right to keep and bear arms has justly been considered the palladium of the liberty of a republic. The Second Amendment is the palladium of the liberty of a republic. It is that thing by which our liberty cannot fall as long as it's in place. since it offers a strong moral check against the usurpation and arbitrary power of rulers. It's not about your hunting rifle, man. Tucker, and Story had a lot more to say on this subject. Tucker, to me, has a little more, I shouldn't say, he has street cred. You know, he fought in the Revolution. He was a member of the militia. He took up arms to defend liberty. And he wrote a ton of stuff, but one of the things he wrote was an edition of Blackstone's Commentaries on the Laws of England, because he was writing just a little bit before Story. Story hadn't written his commentaries on the U.S. Constitution yet. And so this Blackstone's Commentaries on the Laws of England was the premier legal work in the English-speaking world at the time, possibly in the world. I've heard some things about it before. It was highly influential. But this guy wrote an edition with his notes as it would pertain to America. He started serving as a judge not long after. He was appointed by Madison, too. And so they didn't have commentaries for American laws. He took Blackstone's commentaries and added notes inside his commentaries. Here's what this guy had to say. Again, about the Second Amendment. This can be considered as the true Palladium of liberty. It's entirely possible that Story got this phrase from Tucker. This can be considered as the true Palladium of liberty. The right of self-defense is the first law of nature. I might disagree there, but that one little point, but that's quibbling. In most governments, it has been the study of rulers to confine this right in the narrowest limits possible. Whenever standing armies are, and you think about our federal law enforcement as a standing army, because they would have, are kept up, and the right of the people to keep and bear arms is under any color or pretext whatsoever prohibited, liberty, if not already annihilated, is on the brink of destruction. Man, our AR-15s, and if you just are just determined to be contrarian, your AK-47 is not a rifle. It is a palladium. It is the palladium of liberty. It is that thing by which liberty cannot die if we were able to hold on to it. History is so important. I know everyone says this. It really is, though. You know, when these weirdos in the colleges now tell us, you know, oh no, the Second Amendment really meant the National Guard. We have to be able to go back in history and show them what the Second Amendment meant to. And we got to say, no, Joseph Story, Supreme Court Justice, St. George Tucker, Virginia Circuit Federal Judge said this, and he said this, and they based it on this. That's not going to stop them, but it may help us change. Anyway, this is important stuff, man. The Second Amendment is the palladium of liberty. It is that thing with which liberty cannot fall while it is in place. Men, we appreciate you. Thank you.